Okay, Michael, say a few words.
You are listening to WAAT 750 AM on your radio dial. This is Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We meet with you every week here on our station talking about children and the issues revolving around children, their families, preventative health, education. Today we have this visitor, Dr. Michael DiPalma. He is a naturopathic physician. He works out of the Village at Newtown Medical Center. He's been practicing in private practice for the last 15 years. He's a television and radio celebrity. He also lectures at Jefferson Medical University, the University of Pennsylvania, and Temple University. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, Daria. How are you?
Good. Michael and I go back way back, and Michael has a tremendous amount of information. But first of all, Michael, tell us what a naturopathic physician is.
Well, a naturopath, I'll tell you that when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor, and I started to explore the medical schools, and what I discovered that they didn't teach nutrition in the medical schools, and I wanted to study nutrition and preventive medicine to the type of doctor that worked with keeping people healthy and out of hospitals. And so I was kind of surprised that they didn't teach nutrition in medical school. So I discovered that there was a school in North America at the time. This was in the mid-'70s, and the school was called the National College of Naturopathic Medicine, which was like the only school in North America that was an alternative medical school. And
that's on the West Coast, isn't it?
It was in Portland, Oregon. It still is, and it was a naturopathic medical school, and basically what it was, or what it is that basic medical sciences are taught there: anatomy, physiology, clinical and physical diagnosis, pathology, and instead of learning surgery and drugs as ways to remedy ailments and keep people well, we learned acupuncture, Chinese medicine, nutrition, herbal medicine, homeopathic medicine, exercises, preventive medicine, natural childbirth, and fasting, and ways of keeping healthy and gaining health through those methods. So that's naturopathic medicine, and it combines the term naturopathy comes from the terms nature cure, which is the back to nature movement that was popular in Europe, and in the health spas of positive mental outlook and eating well and exercise and fresh air and sunshine and hydrotherapy, and that combines with homeopathy, which is another form of natural medicine.
Michael, how old is naturopathic medicine?
Well, the philosophy and the techniques are from the beginning of time. And as a profession, it started in the United States in 1902 by Dr. Benedict Lust, who was a medical doctor that came over to the United States from Germany. And he started this profession of combining the nature cure movement and homeopathy, which the medical profession didn't want. So we're basically just almost ready to celebrate our 100 years.
Well, tell our audience a little bit about what homeopathy is.
Well, homeopathy is it's a very fascinating and interesting field of natural medicine, and it can be a little hard to understand, but basically small amounts of remedies are used, whether they're from the plant kingdom, it can be from the mineral kingdom, or the insect or the animal kingdom. And basically,
I thought it was the simple philosophy of like cures like.
Yeah, well, what it is amounts of these remedies that can be given, that are given to a healthy person, might bring about symptoms. Let's say poison ivy or a bumblebee might cause people to get a bumblebee reaction from their sting, and or the plant poison nut. When people are giving these when they're healthy, or receive these when they're healthy, they come down with poison ivy rash, or the bee sting, or poison nut. If somebody starts to chew that, they might get a headache, indigestion, constipation, belly aches. If you keep eating it, you get sicker and sicker, so that's why it's called poison nut. Feel like you have a hangover. So when people come to a practitioner of homeopathy with symptoms such as those, the homeopath will match the symptom picture with the appropriate remedy that would. So it's basically you're using like to cure like. So poison ivy homeopathically diluted, and these are diluted like some of them, 1 part per million and beyond. They are used to stimulate the body to correct the imbalance, and what we're doing is matching those symptoms. Like the homeopathic remedy, one of the remedies we have for colds and sniffles is allium cepa, which is an onion. So we know what happens when we start cutting an onion when we're preparing a meal. It can make our eyes tear, and clog us up a little bit. So that would be a remedy that would be used. That's one of the homeopathic remedies that can be used for head colds and beginning of a cold. Allium cepa, the homeopathic onion. So that's homeopathy in a nutshell. And so basically it is true that like cures like.
Now, Michael, for those parents who are out there listening who might not be able to have access to a homeopathic physician, can you give us some background information on natural cures for, several of children's diseases and illnesses that parents might be able to get from the local grocery store or pharmacy?
Okay, there's a couple of basic. Well, there's a really good book that's called Everybody's Guide to Homeopathy or Homeopathic Medicines. And there's a couple of books you can get in health food stores or some of the bookstores or some of the health food stores, as I said, and that can go into this a little bit. But some of the remedies that are helpful is one of them is called arnica or arnica montana, and that's good for anytime there's a fall or a bruise or an injury or trauma, whether it's to a head or any part of the body, automobile accident, injury sustained from any kind of blows, or so for families with young children fall a lot, obviously, and that's a good remedy to have around. But for most families, for most people, arnica is a good remedy because it can be very, very healing and help to start the body to healing if there's been trauma or injury. And it's also can be good for aches and sore muscles after working out too hard, from like playing tennis for the first time in years, or getting on a bike, and for someone who rides a long distance and starts to be really sore. So it could be for sports and athletic events, injuries as well. But so arnica is a very good one to have around, and it's one of the more popular and commonly used homeopathic remedies. Another one to acquaint the listening audience with is a remedy called belladonna, and that would be a remedy that could be used for fevers or earaches or any type of a condition that comes on very quickly, and then there's a lot of heat and redness, and perhaps throbbing, dilated pupils. So this could be good for conditions that come on quick, and with a lot of redness, heat, throbbing, and so that could be for a number of children with earaches that match that picture. Another one to get acquainted with is pulsatilla. Now there's a number of homeopathic remedies that could be good for earaches, but it depends on what the picture of the child or the person presents with. So as I said, if something comes on very quickly with a lot of intense pain, I should add, and there's redness and there's a fever, you would think of belladonna. Now pulsatilla may not present, certainly doesn't present that much that way. Pulsatilla, they may not have that severe of a presentation or a picture or affect them in such a way. the condition may not affect them in such a way. So the pulsatilla child will just want to be held and cuddled, and they may be crying a lot and from the pain, but they're really weepy, but they feel relieved when they're held. And that's a really important one. They want to be held. They want to be comforted. They may have a discharge from their nose or their ear or any part of their body that may be like a thick yellow greenish in color.
Michael, can't people get a kit at the health food store that has all these different homeopathic remedies in it?
Yeah, there are kits that you can get at health food stores. And
well, let's go back to herbs.
Okay.
And natural kinds of medications like that you can. I remember the day you took me around to the pharmacy and the grocery store, and we put together a package of remedies for parents. We put together a package for in-home that were all off-the-counter, non-prescription, all-natural. Can you give us some, for example, like castor oil and things like that? Can you give us a little bit of a kit to put together for parents for their families?
Well, you mentioned castor oil, but I wouldn't start with castor oil.
Well, that's the one that jumps to mind.
Some grandmothers or some people may have remembered taking that when they were young or heard about that.
External and internal.
Castor oil is basically, people do take it internally, but it's very strong, cathartic, and purgative. In other words, it helps you really move your bowels, basically. But it's really strong. Yet some people will have it around the house, and they use it to apply topically in the form of a pack or a poultice to loosen up or dissolve like warts or plantar's warts. Or some people will make a pack, saturate cloth, and put it over an area of pain or arthritis, or saturated cloth applied over the abdomen. It can be really very helpful for cases of like constipation or belly pain. And
what other good things can we get that are natural in the grocery store?
A couple of the basic things to
let's put together a kit for people.
Okay. It's always good to have echinacea around, and that's ECHINACEA, echinacea. Some people call it echinacea, or basically that's a plant that is a purple cone flower. That's one of the species of it, and a lot of people are growing it now as ornamentally because it's a very beautiful plant. But this plant, the blossoms can be used, the leaves can be used, and primarily the root is used. But basically, this is one of the plants that's scientifically proven, and it's used all over the world, or especially in Europe and Germany. And it's been very popular in the United States because it helps the immune system. It helps to fight infections, and the dry form is very good to help build the immune system up. And as a tea, or use it in capsules. So echinacea tea can be good to build up the immune system, and that's something that people will take. They would tend to take it more in the winter months, or when if they're more susceptible to getting colds or sick a lot. That people can take that maybe a couple times a week or a week or so, and then stop for a while. But you don't take it all the time. But that's something to help build the immune system. Now, in the liquid form and the drop form, for children, you can get it in a glycerin form. Or it makes
glycerin is
alcohol.
A preservative instead of alcohol.
And an alternative to alcohol. Now, if it is in the alcohol form, it could be put into hot water, and the alcohol basically will evaporate. But in the liquid form, it's very good for like an acute infection, or when somebody starts to get a cold, and it combines very well with golden seal, and golden seal is like a natural herbal antibiotic, and so echinacea and golden seal make a really fine team of natural remedies or herbs.
You are listening to WAAT 750 AM on your radio dial. This is Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski, and we are here with Dr. Michael DiPalma from the Newtown Medical Center in Newtown, Pennsylvania, and we're talking about putting together a home remedy kit for you and your children. Michael, what about earaches? We've talked about castor oil, echinacea. What about earaches for children? What kinds of natural things can we do?
Well, as far as remedies for earaches, there's a combination of garlic and mullein drops, or so many health foods sort of carry these, and basically these drops. Then you get them in a little dropper bottle, and you heat these drops up. In other words, you can put them on a teaspoon and hold a teaspoon over the stove for just enough to warm them up, basically. Then you suck them back into the dropper, test it on your wrist, and make sure it's not too hot. And then by placing that warm oil in the ear, that can be very helpful, soothing, and to help to relieve an earache. And one can also add with it internally into the mouth now, or into a tea, or mixed with juice, the combination of the echinacea golden seal. Other things that could be helpful would be like vitamin C, zinc, and as I mentioned, a couple of the homeopathic remedies. If it presents with that belladonna picture, one could use belladonna, or one could use pulsatilla. There's several other remedies, another homeopathic remedy.
Okay, what about children who have common things are cuts and abrasions and fevers? What kinds of natural things could we do for them? Home remedies.
They said cuts and abrasions and fevers. There's one thing I'd like to finish with about the ear, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, Michael.
There's another remedy called chamomilla, or chamomile, homeopathic chamomile, and that would be very good for a child that has an earache, and they're just extremely in a lot of extreme pain, and you want to hold them and help them and comfort them, and they might kick or scream at you or throw things if you give them something to pacify them, and so they can be really cranky and irritable, and nothing's going to help them. So that's another remedy that may help. And the other thing is, there's a lot of reoccurring earaches that kids have. Well, they'll take something, they'll take an antibiotic, then it'll come back, or they might get 3 or 4 earaches in a winter time or in a season, and many people continue to get antibiotics. And so the one thing that we find a lot in the holistic medicine community is that there's an allergic component to ear infections, earaches, because what happens is we have, and when kids get multiple earaches, doctors will talk about wanting to put tubes into their ear. Basically, that little tube is going into their eardrum and allowing the pressure and the germs and the fluids to come out of their ear, so there's no pressure buildup, which obviously creates pain. But God in nature created a little tube for in the back, inside the ear, and that's called the eustachian tube. Now, certainly in children and infants, it's shorter, and it has the angle of it is not as good for drainage as it is when one gets older. But what can happen is that can get easily blocked up from foods that can cause allergies, whether it would be milk, or various forms of dairy, or
wheat,
breaded, or wheat, or yeasted breads. So and eating a lot of sugar can create can help to feed the bacteria, and a lot of dairy products or bread is going to help to clog up the area, and you get the swollen up sinuses and swollen up head. And what happens is it gets swelled up, it closes off the natural eustachian tube, and then you get the pressure buildup and the recurring earache. So what we look at is is there a connection to an allergy to wheat, or to eggs, or to dairy, or to yeasted breads and other foods like that. So we always look at that, and often there's an allergic component to that. So the remedies that I gave are remedial, or they may help the symptoms. They may certainly help you get through it, but you have to think about what could be causing it. So we look at the diet, we look at the amount of sugar, or those foods, to see if there's any kind of connection to that. And
let's talk about cuts, Michael.
Right, cuts.
Topical.
So, cuts. There's a plant called that grows in many people's yards. It likes to grow where people walk. The Native Americans called this plant, was brought over from Europe in grain bags. That's called plantain, and Native Americans called this white man's foot, or it grows where people walk, and it's called plantain. If you know what that plant looks like, you could go out and get it and chew it up and apply it to your wound. Of course, not everybody knows what that looks like, but that's one of nature's Bactine plants. Bactine because very antiseptic. Now, some health food stores carry herbal salves that have plantain in it. Another one to look for in a salve would be calendula. It's a little easier to find. Calendula, Calendula, and that's an herbal cream or salve.
You can buy that in any pharmacy, can't you?
Most of the pharmacies are starting to carry these natural remedies now. So calendula, if it has plantain in it, that's great. But calendula is one to have around, and sometimes aloe. Aloe can be very antiseptic and very healing. And I think it's great for everybody to have an aloe vera plant in their house because it's also good for burns. But it can also be good for, certainly it's also good for cuts as well, and where you can break a little piece of that off and put that on a cut. Now, you can always wash the wound out with a little hydrogen peroxide, which is that's always a good step as well. So
Michael,
anyway, the calendula is one, the aloe vera is another, and as I said, there's various herbal healing salves that may have comfrey, calendula, and plantain. That's a good combination that I like to use, and so check in your health food stores or your drug stores for that.
Now, Michael, you said earlier about poultices. Tell people what a poultice is. It's real old-fashioned.
A poultice can be something that is applied topically to the skin or to the body, and basically you're chopping up plants or using a castor oil or mustard poultice is an old-fashioned.
Mustard plaster they used to use.
Yeah, onion poultice is a really good one. So there are different plants. There's many different. Now
let's tell people what a poultice is. You take a cotton cloth, and then you put onions on top, and then you put another piece of cotton on top, and then you put it on the surface.
Right.
Correct?
Right. So basically,
But don't put onions on open cut.
No, you don't usually put onion poultice on a cut.
I didn't think so.
But an onion poultice, it's an old. It's not just Pennsylvania Dutch, but it's an old remedy. Basically, you take a cast iron skillet, and I'll repeat this if people want to write this down. You take a cast iron skillet, and you just kind of cover the bottom of it with olive oil, and then you take one or two onions, depending on the size of them, or one big onion or two smaller ones, and you just chop it up, and you put it in your cast iron skillet or a frying pan, preferably one without Teflon. And then you add a couple of tablespoons, let's say 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar and 2 teaspoons of salt or sea salt, and you just stir that up. You don't cook it long, you just kind of warm it up basically. And then, so what you're going to do with that is you're going to put that onto a cloth or an old sheet or an old white shirt, but you don't want it to be too drippy and to run all over the place, so you add a little cornstarch or cornmeal or some kind of a flour that's going to kind of keep it from running all over the place. You just add a little bit of that to keep it together. So basically you put that onion, the
concoction,
the vinegar, the sea salt, and the cornstarch, whatever, on a cloth cotton sheet or old shirt or something like that, and you just fold it over and you just make wrap it up, and you just apply it. And for the onion poultice, this one you apply to the upper chest, and it can go all the way up to the upper part of the lower part of the neck, I should say.
That's for
and that's an onion poultice.
Inflammation in the chest.
Take a little tiny one and put it behind the ear if you have an earache. But an onion poultice would be good for any kind of chest cold and cough. It's very warm, it's very penetrating, it's very soothing, and the onion has it's just like garlic. It has natural antibiotics in it, and that can be very helpful for people that have coughs or colds. And in the First World War, soldiers carried onion powder with them in little glass jars, little glass tubes or bottles, and that's what they would use to put on their wounds if they had an infection.
So it also, for an infection, you can also...
drugs they're derived from the sulfur content of the onions. So an onion poultice is very good.
My mother used to put onions on the bottom of my feet with socks when I had a fever. It seemed to help my fever an awful lot.
Use the raw onions.
Yeah, raw onions.
Put the raw onions in a sock, and then you put that against the bottom of your foot, and then the fever, the onions would get like kind of cooked, right?
Yep. And then there was also the poultices, the carrot poultices. You'd grate up a carrot or take some comfrey leaves and put those on. If I had swelling in other places, I'd put that on my swelling, and it would seem to or infection, it would seem to take it away.
Right, and so poultices are great. You could use the plantain or a lot of leafy green plants, comfrey, and you can apply those over swellings and bites and stings and bruises, and it's very healing. The green plants are chlorophyll rich, and it's one of the gifts of nature to help heal.
Well, Michael, we have about 3 minutes here before we take a break.
Okay.
Can you give us, let's see, we've gone through, how about headaches? Can you give us a short description of what's good for a headache for a child?
Short description. Okay, there could be maybe, let's say, 100 causes of headaches. A couple of things to try. One is massage to the back of the neck, and there's some pressure points back there that are also used in acupuncture. So those can be good. So just or scalp massage. Those are good things to try.
I usually get headaches because my intestines are clogged.
Okay, well that's another cause, and sometimes constipation is a cause of headache. So drinking water. Sometimes people get headaches regularly. Just a simple addition of maybe 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, and their bowels start to work better, and they're not as toxic, and they're not constipated, and their headaches can go away. Feverfew is an herbal remedy that may help people that are getting a lot of headaches. Sometimes you can get headaches from food allergies, like I said.
Okay, well, we right now will take a short break and let our sponsors have some time here. You are listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski, WAAT 750 AM. We're here today with Dr. Michael DiPalma from Newtown, near Philadelphia, Newtown Medical Center, and we're talking about natural remedies for children. In the day and age of our pharmaceutical companies, we thought it was pretty interesting to bring somebody on board who talks about natural remedies. Earlier we talked about homeopathy, and now we're on herbs, and we'll be doing that to continue that for our second half hour. While we take a little break and let our sponsors know where we're going, what we're doing here. You may reach us anytime at 570-639-2931 for further information. You may reach us again at 570-639-2931 or email us at prokids, PROKIDS, at rlc.net. That's prokids, PROKIDS, at rlc.net. So please come back and join us for our second half hour with Dr. Michael DiPalma and naturopathic medicine for your children. You're listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski on 750 AM on WAAT on your radio dial. We're here every Tuesday, and today we have Dr. Michael DiPalma, who's talking to us about natural remedies for children. We talked about homeopathic remedies, and we were into home remedies that you could get at your grocery store, health food store, and pharmacy. And Michael, we talked about headaches and chest pains and inflammation and colds and things of that nature, flu. Can you tell us a little bit about, let's talk about allergies. Boy, a lot of people are talking about allergies. What kinds of natural remedies do we have for allergies?
Well, as I mentioned, there's I'll give you a list of basically about maybe like a dozen foods or so, 10 or 12 foods that are common cause contributors to food allergies anyway, and they would be like milk and milk products, so cheeses, butter, yogurt. Now people may have allergy to just one of those or all of those. That's a common allergy food. Cow's milk. Another one is sugar. Another one is wheat, corn, or soy can be troublesome for people. Chocolate, pork, shellfish, orange juice, eggs, yeast, or peanuts or peanut butter. So now that may
What
make
kinds of reactions would people get?
Too.
What kind of reaction will people get to those?
Well, usually the dairy and the milk are going to cause more like a respiratory allergy. Let's say like nasal type of thing, or it could cause intestinal cramps or spasms or belly aches. So a lot of times people will have belly aches and they'll go to their doctors and they won't quite understand or see the connection between their diet or their food allergy and their problem. And it could cause headaches or other things too. But dairy products are usually going to cause like some type of a sinus and aggravate like hay fevers that they might get from like pollens or cat dander and things of that nature. So that's going to cause that in the sinuses or the belly aches. Sugar can, as I said, it can feed bacteria. Love two things that bacteria love. They love the mucus-generating dairy products because it gives them areas that they can kind of hang out in, and the sugar feeds the bacteria. So a lot of milk and a lot of sugar, there'd be more likelihood of getting a lot of colds and things, or things that are like, they can actually be allergies or allergies that can, sinusitis, things like that can become infections. So sugar can also cause hyperactivity. It could cause any number of things, but it's certainly an excitatory type of a reaction. Usually wheat or corn, grain products or tend more to cause a skin type of an allergic reaction, just like some people may be allergic to strawberries or tomatoes. So in other words, what might be one person's food that they're fine with might be another person's allergy food or their poison, because they might have symptoms from it. So these are not all for everybody. In other words, not everybody's going to get an allergic reactions from these foods. But another one is pork. Another one is shellfish. Shellfish can be a real strong one. Shrimp or lobster.
Might be a nightmare in some families with everybody allergic to different things. Boy, what is Mom going to cook for dinner?
Right. Yeah, it can be a challenge trying to find it. Orange juice can be, just the amount of the acid and the ascorbic acid can cause problems. Eggs are a common allergen. Yeast is a big one. And what is the yeast? Yeast is used to make bread. You need flour and water and yeast, and then to make the yeast grow, you need sugar or honey to make it grow. So a lot of yeast can be systemic yeast can be a big problem. It can be one can get that, child or grown up, from having had too many antibiotics. So it's not just a vaginal or yeast infection that women know, but it could certainly cause respiratory problems. It could certainly cause belly aches. It could certainly cause skin rashes. It can certainly cause, for children, like colic, or as I said, it could even, when children and adults, it could lead to cause people to get a little spacey or have trouble focusing. So we think about that for learning connection there. It can cause tiredness. The yeast can cause tiredness. In other words, like if you have a couple of beers, a couple of beers or more than a couple of beers, and people get certain symptoms and they don't feel like focusing or paying attention. And as a yeast problem can certainly do that. And that can be you can just get that from too much sugar and too many yeast products. And why the sugar? Because the sugar products, and sometimes even like a lot of fruit juices or dried fruits, can feed the yeast. So you're helping the yeast to grow and grow. And the yeast would be in things like breads and pizzas and things like that, and many of your packaged foods. So,
boy, Michael, I always learn something new every time you talk. I hear you talk. I just learned about dried fruits. Fruits, excuse me. I had no idea.
So the dried fruits could could potentially be moldy or.
Now, Michael, I have a question.
High sugar concentration.
Some parents might be asking this. There are many different reasons why a child, for example, may have a headache, or a child may have a stomach ache, or how do you determine those? I mean, it's so much easier to pop a pill in their mouth and get a pharmaceutical prescription than it is to try and determine whether or not this child has an allergy to food, whether or not one thing or another is wrong. What kind of advice could you give parents?
Well, you want to try to see how often they get the headaches, and I usually have people write a diet diary. That way we can look at the diet and say, well, and when did the child get the headaches? Do they have them every day? Do they have them once a week? Or is it a certain day of after school or something like that, on a particular day that they eat a certain type of food? Or is it when they eat drink sodas, and is it because of the is it because it could become because of NutraSweet for certain, because a lot of people can get headaches from that, and that's in a lot of foods, or it could be eyeglasses, or certainly or vision, something kind of a vision problem. So there's so many things. So I think for someone that I work with, I want to get a very detailed history of what. And I start with what's the complaint, how long's it been, what makes it better, what makes it worse, what's the diet like, what are the times of the day when you get when the symptoms occur, and then we try to play Sherlock Holmes and try to figure out, well, could it be coming from this? Could it be coming from
one thing or another?
Yeah, it could be coming from an airborne environmental allergen, or a food allergen. The airborne or the environmental can be sometimes strong cleaning agents in schools can cause headaches in children, or other problems. So basically, it just requires sometimes not that simple. And obviously, it could be stress or tension. So a massage would be remedial, or palliative, and be helpful. But maybe there may be a subluxation of the cervical vertebrae, where a visit to a chiropractor or an osteopath or a massage practitioner might be helpful to release that tension. Or if there's if there's a bone out of place, as I use the word subluxation, then they may need to get that evaluated and or corrected with an osteopath or a chiropractor.
The other day I had a sunburn, and somebody gave me some tea tree oil to put on the sunburn, and I could not believe how it immediately took the sting out of the sunburn, and I kept applying it and never felt it after that day. What is tea tree oil?
Well, tea tree oil is an oil that comes from, it's an essential oil that comes from a plant called the tea tree plant, which is tea tree actually, which is I believe it's just native to Australia, and it's a very wonderful healing oil that has numerous benefits and applications, and it's some health food stores have it, and these essential oils are very healing. A lot of people are discovering aromatherapy or essential oils in healing. Another one for burns and for healing that has so many uses too is called lavender oil. So that's another one. We mentioned castor oil a little earlier too, but
now
it's great.
Let's take a look at. Let's start with infancy. Teething, colic, those kinds of things, digestive problems. What would you suggest for parents of young children?
Well, teething is inevitable. Teeth are going to come in whether you're ready or not. And so what you have to look at is what are there any nutritional deficiencies that the child has received from their diet, or if they were nursing from their mom. And so the one thing that's helpful is high calcium-rich foods, and that doesn't mean just dairy and cheese, or yogurts. It can also be certainly, definitely dark leafy greens and broccoli and things of that nature that the mother has been consuming, or the mother has been consuming, and the child's been getting through nursing, or as a person starting to cut their teeth. But so we look at that a little bit, and there are a couple of homeopathic remedies that work really well for teething, and two of them, and for colic as well. And there's a company that's been around for, some of the homeopathic companies have been around for well over 100 years, and one of them is called Highlands, and they have already pre-packaged a product that's called teething tablets for the symptomatic relief of teething in infants and children. And it's a combination of 3 homeopathic remedies, or 3 or 4 of them. And one of them is like calcium phosphorus, one of them is chamomile, as I said, for the cranky irritableness part of it. Another one that's in that combination is coffee, homeopathic coffee, which is it's very good for painful teeth. And another one in that combination will be like belladonna. So that's a real helpful combination for that. As a matter of fact, I mentioned coffee. Homeopathic coffee is a remedy that may be helpful for a headache as well.
Michael,
and then for colic, there's the combination of colic pills that Highlands also makes. So colic, we also want to think about. You must look at what a child, or more likely the mother, is eating, and is it coming through the breast milk or from their formula? And is there an allergy to? Is the mother eating a lot of garlic or onions or broccoli, or is the child eating something, or is one of them eating something that they're allergic to? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what about things like insect bites? What kinds of natural things can we do for insect bites?
Insect bites? Well, some of those herbal salves that we mentioned earlier are helpful.
Calendula and aloe vera?
Aloe vera is okay.
Comfrey?
Usually a green plant would be better for, like comfrey or plantain. But yeah, use your aloe vera. That would certainly be helpful.
Now, how about poison ivy?
Poison ivy. One of the best remedies for that is a plant called jewelweed, Jewel, W-E-E-D, jewelweed. It's an impatiens plant. It's like a wild impatiens. It's also called wild touch-me-not. It's a plant, if people know it, it has like a little orangish yellow blossom, and when you touch it, it kind of pops open. That's a great remedy for poison ivy.
Where does it grow, Michael?
So jewelweed, if you know what it looks like, and like I do edible medicinal plant walks and show people what it looks like. So if people are frequently getting this, if they know where it grows, usually it grows around poison ivy, and that's a plant that you could squeeze around the stem and get the juices from it and rub it on the poison ivy, or use it before you walk in the, or a person might garden, or kids might go play. You could use it on there, or you could use it you can get a juicer and make juice with it and freeze those little ice cubes of juice, and you can then have it instantly ready to apply. Some health food stores have a jewelweed salve, or you can get, there's a soap that I've seen that has jewelweed in it. If you can't find jewelweed, then you might try your others, your aloe vera, your calendula.
You're listening to WAAT 750 AM on your radio dial. This is Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We're here every week talking about children, families, and today we're talking with Dr. Michael DiPalma. If you'd like to have more information about Dr. Michael DiPalma's work, who is a naturopath, by the way, he's at Newtown Medical Center in Newtown, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. His number where he can be reached. Michael, shall I give your office number? 215-579-1300. Dr. DiPalma's phone number, 215-579-1300, extension 112. And Michael, treats patients. He's been treating patients for the last 15 years in his private practice, as well as many other places. I've seen him on television. He's been on radio, and he's very well known in the Philadelphia area, and a very excellent physician in terms of naturopathic medicine. And Michael explained to us earlier that naturopathic medicine is curing people by natural means and, as much as possible, prevention. And we've been talking about the kinds of things he does for children with respect to the common kinds of illnesses that children have. And Michael, let's talk a little bit. Can you give our listening audiences any literature, magazines, books, anything that they can pick up regarding natural medicine for their children?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, one of the books on homeopathy is called Everybody's Guide to Homeopathy, and that is by Cummings and Ullman, Cummings, and Ullman, Ullman. There's another book called The Complete Guide to Homeopathy by Doctors Lockie, Lockie, and Geddes, Geddes. There's...
How about natural remedies?
There's a great book called The Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine by a couple of my other acquaintances and friends in the naturopathic medical field. That's by Dr. Michael Murray and Dr. Joseph Pizzorno. It's called The Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine, and that's quite a comprehensive, user-friendly guide of more than a number of medical conditions for the health that you can keep around, and it goes into the philosophy of why eating, the explanations of why eating well is wise, and why exercise is helpful, and by the better we eat, the healthier we are, the less illness we'll get. And
does it also have remedies that you've been talking about here with regard to natural remedies as comfrey and poultices and things like that?
Yeah, and vitamins and herbs.
It's such a wide variety of things. I mean, there are so many things to talk about. We haven't even gotten into vitamins and herbs yet.
So I usually have recommend people go into their health food stores or their bookstores and see what they have in the health departments, or the books on remedies for their themselves or their children or their families, and they can just go in and pick a book that they feel that they feel comfortable with, and that's clear and explains things to them.
Is there a magazine that people can read?
Well, there's a magazine called Mothering Magazine that's basically for moms, obviously, and for newborns and raising children. Then there's a couple of other magazines. Natural Health is a real good magazine. Natural Health. Some of the health food stores as well have.
How about prevention?
Prevention is a good one. That's
okay.
A good one. You just have to see what you feel, which one you like the best. And there's, as I said, there's Natural Health, there's prevention, mothering.
Alternative medicine? Have you ever seen
different
that?
Newsletters that doctors, like Dr. Andrew Weil, puts out on his website, and there's a number of different websites that have newsletters on this field. And as I said, the health food stores have several magazines that they give out free that has a lot of helpful information. But Natural Health magazine is a good one, and Mothering's good for the.
Mothering is an excellent one. There's a new one out for teenagers too now. The title eludes me. Excuse me. How about digestive problems? What kinds of natural things for digestive problems?
Well, the two real good remedies for that, as far as in herbal medicine, is one is peppermint tea, and the other one is chamomile tea. Peppermint is a wonderful. It's called a carminative, and helps to get rid of gas, basically, and intestinal spasms. And chamomile is in that same category too. And chamomile is also good for helping to get rid of some of that real severe pain. So those are our remedies for indigestion. But full of, as I said, what we want to try to figure out is where is it coming from. Sometimes it doesn't really matter. You just want to take a cup of tea, have something that's going to really help, and they may help. But we want to, if these things keep happening, we have to look at, like, well, maybe we're eating too fast, or maybe we're eating the wrong foods, or maybe we're not chewing our food really well, so that's not digesting really well. And those three things, not chewing really well, eating too fast, or eating something that is a problem for us, or too much food, or not combining our foods well. Some people have problems digesting having like a protein and a carbohydrate the same meal. So the old combination of meat and potatoes, or spaghetti and meatballs, or chicken and rice, or fish and potato, or something like that may not work well for somebody, because carbohydrate digestion starts in their mouth and it continues in the small intestines, whereas proteins are broken down in the stomach from hydrochloric acid. So some people, that can create havoc when they combine the protein and carbohydrates. So for some people, they may need to watch that for a while. And for certain people, they may not be able to eat fruit with their meals, because that could create havoc. Some people drink too much water and they dilute their digestive juices, or the digestive enzymes. So that's another thing. So we have to look at those things too if people are getting repeated digestive problems. But so many things can be remedied by just watching how we eat. Obviously, eating in a relaxed environment, chewing your food slowly, and the body's going to be able to handle that food better, and there's less likelihood of getting indigestion. But and there could be other things going on too. I mean, there could be, there's other herbs that are helpful to help the liver to work better. Sometimes digestive enzymes are helpful, but
Michael, I have trouble sleeping at night. When I put my head on the pillow, I can't fall asleep. A lot of children have difficulty sleeping. What would you recommend for that?
Well, chamomile tea is a very good.
It blocks up my nose.
Okay, is that because you may be allergic to that family, the Compositae family? That, in other words, Compositae means flowers composed of a lot of petals.
Don't you remember the last time I ate little flowers with the petals?
Well, you have to watch the little flowers and petals.
I got a rash all over my body.
Let's see, for sleep. Well, there's hops as a remedy that helps people to sleep.
I know.
Valerian is a sedative, but there's it depends on why, what's really causing the person.
Well, my mind goes 1,000 miles an hour and I can't stop it.
So a racy mind. I mean, you can try catnip tea as another helper. I mean, catnip is like as a nervine or a sedative for people, where for as a cat it excites them. It's a stimulant.
The only trouble is every time I take these remedies, I want to sleep for the next 3 days. I mean, it puts me to sleep at night, but then I can't wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you might want to try little tiny amounts of them and see how you do. Lavender can be a helper. Actually, the homeopathic remedy coffee, when a person drinks a lot of...
That one knocked me out for 3 days. So I don't think I'm going to try that one again.
Well, maybe it wasn't too high of a strength, but for some other people it might help.
That's true. Michael, we've got about 3 minutes to go here and at the end of our broadcast. Is there something you'd like to say to our listeners to kind of sum up the things we've been talking about here, and the information you'd like to convey to family and parents and teachers who are listening?
Well, I think the two biggest culprits of most of the ailments that besiege us today are what we eat and stress, obviously, and or not obviously, but it seems to be. Hopefully, it's obvious. But it's like, what do we do with these things? And well, we have a lot of control over what we eat, and we just have to practice more discipline and really. But we can really by making changes in what we eat and how we manage our stress, and we can really eliminate a majority of our problems. And it's easier said than done, true, but exercise can be just like saying, well, we're going to take a walk as an individual or a family after dinner, and we're going to just take a walk, and that's going to help to relax us, to help us to get the oxygen that we need, help us to digest our food. that's a great stress reducer. So stress reduction, doing things that are going to help us to feel happy, and just making time for that. And the better we eat, I mean, we are what we eat, and the better we eat, the better we're going to feel. And those two things, they sound simple, but they really, once we figure that out, it's really amazing how wonderful they work for us.
It sounds easy, but when you're somebody like me who travels all over, it's often difficult. But in any event, I appreciate your being with us in your busy schedule today. I can't tell you how much I'm grateful for all the information that you've given us today. You are listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski on WAAT 750 AM. We're here every week talking about issues regarding children, and today we've been talking to Dr. Michael DiPalma, who is at the Newtown Medical Center. That's in Newtown, right outside of Philadelphia. You can reach him if you'd like to talk to him directly at 215-579-1300. That's 215-579-1300, extension 112. And if you have any questions here about anything we have at Children Come First, you can call us at 570-639-2931. That's 570-639-2931. Michael, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Well, you're welcome. I'm happy to
in your busy medical schedule, and maybe somebody who's listening in the audience today maybe need to come down to Philadelphia and become a patient of yours and join in with your natural remedies. We appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us in our audience today. Please join us again next week when we will be having people on again with issues regarding children, education, preventative health, family living, all the things that surround the children in our lives. We hope to join us next week, and thank you for joining us today on Children Come First. Have a good day.